I bet you guys didn't know this. A few years ago, no, 14 years ago to be exact, something happened. It was a life experience. What's up, Chip? What's up, Jason? Hope you guys are doing awesome. On September 30th, 2003, it was, I guess, a year and a couple of months after I graduated high school. I was going to community college, and I thought I wanted to design roller coasters like many of you probably have heard me talk about in the past. And I was an avid sports fan, I would say. And ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, at least at the time, decided to do something similar to American Idol. I can't remember if it was before American Idol or after American Idol. But ESPN decided to start a new show called Dream Job, where they would have thousands of contestants come together and they would try out to become the next anchor on ESPN. This was their logo. I tried finding a better one because it was 2003. There wasn't a lot of options. So I was like, man, I like sports. Sports are cool. Maybe I want to be, I don't mind talking in front of people. Maybe I could be a sports anchor. It was the first time I ever thought, hey, I could be a sports anchor. And it came out that Stuart Scott was going to be the host. And I always loved Stuart Scott because he always had catchphrases. And I think I'm going to be telling you guys a lot of things that you guys probably have no idea about at this point, right? So I had a catchphrase. So when something big would happen, like a home run or like a slam dunk, I'd be like, Michael Jordan takes the ball down the court and he slams dunk, Yahtzee! Oh, it's so funny even to say, Yahtzee, right? Thank you guys for being here. Dean, Christy, Robert. Rob, what's up, man? Enjoyed going to Cedar Point many years ago with you. Patrick, April, Heather, Brian, Chip, thank you all for being here. So, ESPN decides somewhere about 7 or 8 weeks before September of 2003 that they are going to start doing this show called Dream Job, where they would get contestants to try out, and whoever would win would get a job on ESPN. And I decided to try out. But before I show you guys or tell you guys a little about the tryout, let me show you guys a quick video of what it actually looks like. I think I'm going to show you. There we go. If you've never done it before, this stuff is tough. You ever seen, what's that guy? Boom Goes the... I don't know what happened. I know what happened now. So, the show goes on. I think they did 3 or 4 seasons. A couple of those faces you guys still might recall that have been there. But this dream job really, this show became a dream job for me. It's ultimately what I went to school to end up doing. At that point, I was still thinking about designing roller coasters. But I went, and they had a 29 city tour. And September 30th, 2003. They were at the ESPN Zone in Washington, D.C. How many of you guys remember when ESPN had an ESPN Zone? Do those things even exist anymore? So, I don't know how long I remember about this, how long it took me to decide I was going to do this, but I, at the time, was living in Sterling, Virginia, and my mom drove me to the location in downtown DC, and I got there at like 3 in the morning. I'm 19 years old at the time. I'm wearing a suit, actually. I had this stupid little goatee, I remember. And Andrew Bond, what's up, man? And so I decided, let's get to this place. So it's 3 in the morning, and I literally just sit in line for the next, 7 hours until they open up. Other people start showing up, maybe 1 or 2 people at 4, a couple more people at 6, and then like 7 or 8, everyone started coming. So imagine the lines that you've seen at American Idol, and this was nothing like that. But I would say hundreds of people were in line. I was in the first kind of cohort or batch to go in, and I was there. I dressed the part. I was excited. And then reality kind of came in. So while you can be there, being in attendance and wanting something, you actually have to be good at something too. And I learned in this scenario that I was not prepared for what I was about to do. So I get in at 10 o'clock, and they ask a series of questions, like sports trivia questions. I know a lot from like the last 10 or 15 years, but a lot of these questions were from a lot longer than that, right? Stuff from the 60s, like who was the 1966 Heisman Trophy winner? It's Steve Spurrier from the University of Florida. There you go. But you probably didn't know that. But those are the type of questions they would ask, where like, what is the annexation of Puerto Rico? Well, it's the winning football play from Little Giants, a great flick from the 1990s. That wasn't one of the questions, but my point is they were asking really, really technical questions about sports, and I didn't know them. I didn't know the answers. Who was the Cy Young winner in 1993? I didn't know these answers, and so I wasn't prepared. Then they had us go around a room. So I don't know what my ranking was on that. I think it was like 13 questions. My guess is I got 3 right. So I could have been prepared for some more sports knowledge. Then they had us go into this other room where they asked us if we would go around and give a play-by-play. We didn't get to watch the TV or anything. We had to do it from memory, or we had to make it up. I decide to call, for some idiotic reason, the Chris Webber championship game timeout. If any of you guys are sports fans, you guys know what I'm talking about. So Chris Webber is a part of the Fabulous Five, one of the greatest basketball teams of ever at the University of Michigan. And I call some stupid play-by-play that did not happen. So if you remember the play, and I've watched it now since, he basically travels to get the ball. The refs don't call it. Then he goes up the court, dribbles, and his team's saying, no timeout, no timeout. And he goes, timeout. And if you call a timeout while you're on the floor, you actually get, I believe it's a technical. When you don't have a timeout, you get a technical, or you get some sort of foul put on yourself. And I basically just said, Chris Webber up the floor. He called a timeout. Like, it's a play I might have seen once in my life, and that's what I decided to call at the time. I was probably 10 years old at that point. I don't even remember what year it is. It doesn't matter. But I wasn't prepared. Now, again, I'm 19 at the time. I'm 33 now. I'm trying out for ESPN's dream job. They are on a 29-city tour looking for the next anchors for ESPN. And I thought at that point that I could be a sports anchor. I like sports. I have good hair. I think I speak decent. Why don't we do this? And so I did. I showed up. I was there, but I wasn't prepared. What's up, Andrew, Diana, DJ Fisher? What's up, homie? Bob Simpson, Joel Manzer, thank you guys for being here. If you guys think this is interesting, would love you to give it a like or a comment. Feel free to comment on anything. Sports, make fun of me for not knowing how to call a play-by-play, whatever it might be. So I got to thinking. So I get to thinking, and I'm at this place. I'm at the ESPN Zone in Washington, D.C. on September 30th, 2003. I get there 7 hours beforehand. My mother gives me a ride there. I show up. I'm the first one there, and I basically fail the test. Now, if you went to high school with me, you know that I failed a lot of tests, and that's okay, right? But you got to learn from your mistakes. And so I wouldn't have done anything different at this point because I don't necessarily think that that's how you're supposed to live life. You're supposed to learn from that. But things that I took away were I could have understood what was going to go on through the process. So there was, 7 or 8 other locations that had already gone before me. I could have looked online to see what type of questions they were asking or what type of scenarios they were putting people through. So no one in line knew what to do until we got in. And actually, I believe there was more kind of levels, but I just didn't pass. I didn't make it to the next level. And so I could have reached out to different places, locations, and said, what happened? What were some of the scenarios that ESPN's dream job put you through? I could have looked online. I mean, the internet had a lot of forums in 2003, so it's not like that wasn't going to be there. I mean, it just seems so obvious. I could have done my research on how to do play-by-plays, right? I could have just started watching a lot of those and said, let me just copy literally what someone else did using Yahtzee. But I didn't. And so we have to think about what are we getting ourselves into beforehand. And so I still don't like to be super prepared in some cases where, like, a lot of times when I'm interviewing people for the 1004 show, like, I want to know light information out of them because I want it to be like a first conversation. But in a scenario like a game, which is what this is, you want to be as prepared as possible. You know, if you own a business and you know that no traffic is going to come by you on Saturdays and Sundays, you need to figure out how you can bring traffic to you or maybe close on those days, right? It's always good to be as well informed as possible. And I just don't think that I was. I literally just showed up. And I'm here to tell you that just showing up isn't going to be enough. You got to be different. You have to be the anomaly. You have to be someone that stands out and does something that is different and will make people look. I mean, think about it. There's 6,000, you see like 5,000 or 6,000 ads a day, right? I was an advertisement for myself that day, and I was a really poor ad. And that's disappointing, I guess, but if you look at it, I just wasn't the right fit. And I'm glad I didn't get the position. I'm glad I didn't make it to that next step because I didn't deserve it. I needed to be prepared. I could have gone and called George Michael, who was the sports guy in DC at that time, and said, hey, can I shadow you for a week? Can I learn from you? Can you give me 10 minutes? Can I buy you coffee and learn a little bit about what sports anchors are supposed to do? No, honestly, I went on to college, I got a degree, and I became a sports anchor, whatever. So I ended up learning how to do those things. Obviously, I didn't dislike it enough. But I mean, how many meetings have you ever been to? How many relationships have you gone through where you just weren't prepared for? How many, when all you had to do is just simply get some feedback beforehand? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I lost that day, and I really hate losing. But what I learned that day, and I didn't learn it that day. It took me a while to understand this. And I think reflection is something that we all should do early and often. But I was thinking recently, like, oh yeah, dream job. Something popped up and I was like, oh, that was a really monumental day in my life because I learned a lot, right? If ESPN doesn't start this TV show, I probably don't go on to be a sports anchor. I probably don't go on to be get a journalism degree. And so I'm thankful for that, right? Because of this opportunity, which I didn't get, and I failed, and I sucked at miserably. Chris Webber takes the ball inside. He calls a timeout. Blah! Would you guys listen to that? I mean, how freaking boring is that? Michigan down 1. Chris Webber gets the ball inbounds. He travels. The refs don't call it. The fans are going wild. Michigan's like, oh no, what are we supposed to do? He dribbles up the court. His teammates are saying, no timeout, no timeout. Chris Webber calls a timeout. Oh no, what's going to happen? It's a little better at least. Christy says, I love how transparent you are. Nothing hurts better than the truth. Ooh. So true. Think about that though, right? I mean, it's about learning, right? And so everything happens for a reason. So I'm very thankful. ESPN, although I never worked at ESPN and never will, to be honest, because I love what I do now and it has zero to do with working for ESPN. But because of this opportunity, I'm looking now 14, my math is right, 14 years later, is that right? 14 years later, over 14 years later. I never said I was good at math either. 14 years later, you know, I'm more prepared now because of this. So on September 30th, 2003, that experience by me, Zack Miller, trying out for ESPN's Dream Job, which allowed a series of people trying out to become the next ESPN anchor. I was the first in line in the Washington, D.C. city tour. Actually, 10,000 people tried out for this show. 12 were finalists. So of the 9,988, I was one of those losers. I laugh about this now, right? Like, clearly, like, in the moment, I was probably really distraught. I don't remember. Like, you always look back on, man, I wish I would have done this better. I wish I would have done something different. But I didn't. But it's when you lose, figuring out why. Right? We just had the Super Bowl. Patriots lost. A lot of people happy about that. And they always say, oh, they lost in the last play of the game. No, you didn't. It's very rarely that you lose in the last play of the game. There's a series of plays throughout the game where things could have been changed, right? Something in the first quarter, you know, it could have been one of those field goals missed. That could have been the game, right? It could have been the Philly special, you know, them going for it, Philly going for it on that play. We're very rarely losing when we think we are. And it's what we do with it that really matters. Joe, Gavin, Lindsay, I hope y'all are doing well. Potomac Falls High School represent. So in 2003, still living in Sterling. So actually I remember, so my mom drove me to the ESPN zone. And it was cool because, you know, I got to meet a lot of different people. Now, looking back at that, I would have had business cards. Right? So, like, when you're 19 years old, you don't think about these things. You don't think, like, oh, I should have been more prepared. I'm just showing up because that's what I'm basically taught to do my whole life. Well, I could have business cards or things about me. Like, I could have created relationships with all those people. 1 year later, Facebook gets started. I mean, think about that. And so I think it's all about reflecting and understand why a scenario happened. And so, you know, I was just talking about the Super Bowl. Like, what plays could we have improved upon? You know, what scenarios in our life can we improve upon? And if we're not willing to learn from those mistakes and those wins, right? Why did we win in scenarios too? Because I think oftentimes people only think about their failures, but I think it's good, like every scenario, to really understand why something went good or bad, because it happens every day, right? Like, what did you do good? What did you do bad? What can you learn from it? How can you replicate that if you want to over and over again, right? So I'm just more prepared now, I guess, right? That's what I learned from this. That's my lesson, right? Be prepared, right? Boy Scouts taught me to be prepared. Well, in this scenario, I wasn't, so I didn't listen to the Scouts, right? Joel Manzer says, learning from our failures is key to success. Yeah, I mean, I personally don't love the word failure because I think it's too negative of a word, and I don't think we're actually failing in many of these cases. Like, and I joke that I failed with this and then I lost because I didn't win, and so sure, I failed, right? But I didn't really fail because I didn't win, right? I didn't fail because I didn't make it to the second round. I just didn't get there, right? So if I try out for American Idol and I don't make it, did I fail? Not really, right? How much of a chance did I really have at that time, right? I wasn't even in journalism school yet. I don't even think I was. I remember this is 14 years ago, so I'm trying to remember this. I don't even think I was thinking about being a sports anchor at that time. I don't even think I'd applied to WVU at that point. But because of this experience, it led me to all of this now, right? Hey, Danielle, Jenny, Cheryl, thanks for being here. Bob says, I agree that you can learn from your wins. You see what worked for you, but you can also learn from the others' mistakes. Like, I know my coffee right now is cold, but I'm going to try it anyway. Oh, I enjoy iced coffee. Obviously, it's February 15th. I enjoy iced coffee, but when you're drinking warm coffee and it gets to the cold line, it is the worst feeling. Ugh. So I just lost there, right? I just failed drinking coffee. I mean, again, it's not a failure. Like, really, like, what's really the worst thing possible from a scenario to happen, right? So in this case, the worst case scenario is I don't make it to second round. I don't win. But Joel, you're disgusting. But if I really look back and reflect on this, a lot happened from it. I ended up getting a journalism degree from West Virginia University. I was a sports anchor in college. I worked in TV news for a few years. That probably wasn't a great experience. I got comfortable in front of the camera, which maybe I was or wasn't at that point, you know. I learned to be prepared. I learned that the more you poll other people, the more that you ask people questions, the more knowledgeable you can be. And that's important. I mean, think about it. Like, if you can just ask someone, like, how can I improve on this? They're already experts in it, or they're more of an expert than you. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have about really understanding, reflection, or, looking back at stuff. Why Yahtzee was the word that I wanted to use. I don't know that answer. Doing research. That's something that's super important. I mean, just being in the moment is not enough. It's just not. If you guys like what you're seeing, please like and share this content so others can see it. Big announcement coming up in a couple of days, 6 days. September 21st, 9:37 in the morning, I believe. No, that's too late. It's 9:23. It's 9:23. But, I mean, being in the moment, like, I don't know if you guys read my first book, Community. It was an ebook. Not a lot of people read it. I guess I failed on that, too. But in my last chapter is a chapter about Phil Decker, who now has become a really close friend. And in some respects, a mentor, I guess. He would probably say I mentor him, too. But in it, when we had moved Hatch downtown, or opened Hatch downtown, I guess, he has a restaurant called Dieg, and everyone had said, oh, you need to go to this restaurant, or you need to meet Phil. And so for the first few months, I would go to Dieg 2, 3, 4 times a week. I'd have meetings with people, and I'd just be there. And my goal was to meet Phil, who was there every day. But I never actually just reached out to him. I could have just been like, hey man, what's up? How are you? Just want to introduce myself. And then I finally stopped going because breakfast every morning gets expensive. And so I asked him, so I basically just stopped going and cooked the D-egg special on my own, which was like a couple pieces of sausage, wheat toast, tomatoes, and over medium eggs with hot sauce, of course. Got to spice it up. So I'm in this place. I'm there, but I'm not doing the action I want. You've heard me say a lot. If you want an action to happen, create that action. So I wanted to meet Phil and didn't do anything about it. So what sucks is I basically wasted my time, even though it was really easy for me just to be like, hi, how are you? It's good to see you. I didn't think I was having a great hair day today, but maybe I am. So I then get a feature about me in the local paper. Phil reads the paper. He's old school like that. A newspaper is something that is printed that has words on it. For those of you who don't know, likely talking about something recent. And Phil comes to my office and he goes, "You're that guy!" And he has the piece of paper. I'm like, yeah. So here I am, been going forever. Excuse me, I'm saying that wrong. I then am in D-egg randomly. And Phil says, "Oh, this is you. You're in the paper. I saw you in the paper. Good job, man. Awesome. And I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Which one?" And then he shows up in my office a couple hours later with it. I'm like, damn, what did I mess up here? Like, why couldn't I have just reached out to him? Since then, we've had a lot of articles written about us, and Phil has just been a super good dude and become a really good friend, and appreciate him. But again, if you're there and you want an action to happen, you have to create that action. And so here I am, wanting to be seen, but I'm not doing anything to stand out or be the anomaly. So it didn't happen until Phil did it to me. Another lesson learned. So if you want an action to happen, if you want to be seen, guess what? Raise your hand, do the uncomfortable, talk to people, learn. Learn. Hope you guys have enjoyed this edition of Zack Miller Live. It was the dream job edition of Zack Miller Live. It's episode 4. I'm only going to have one more finger to do that for, and that'll be for episode number 5. No matter the experience, no matter what happens, take an inventory, dissect it, and learn what happened. Really learn what happened. And accept it. And if you really, truly want to improve upon it, if you really want to make something right that might have been wrong, figure out why and make it happen. If you really want to take that bad into a good, you have to first understand why that bad happened. And as someone who has messed up a lot in my life, usually I can take it back to where it happened. The same goes for all the good things that have happened in my life too. If you don't reflect and dissect what happened in any kind of scenario, you cannot improve upon it. What's up, Justin Garcia? Hope you're doing well. I appreciate y'all's time today. Feel free to comment a question if you have a question about reflection, ESPN, you want me to do another play-by-play, whatever. But I appreciate you guys being with us today. Zenobia, hope you're doing well. Transparency is important. And look, I don't think transparency, Christy, has to be with others. It can be with a select few. It could be just with yourself or your significant other or your dog that's sleeping right next to you. You just have to be aware and honest with yourself. Because if you're not, what happens is you can't learn from it. And while I tried out, 14 years ago for ESPN, didn't get the position. Looking back, it was actually a really monumental thing to happen to me. And had it not happened, I don't know what I'd be doing now. Maybe I would have built that roller coaster by now. Stanley, what is up, brother? I hope that all of you who have tuned in later will go back and watch from the beginning. A lot of really important stuff. And, to me, I'm a little more mellow today because I think this is a more, serious topic, I guess. But reflection, understanding why certain things happened the way that they did, those are important. And if you want to improve, you want to get better, this is what you have to do. You have to understand why a scenario happened, right? Why did you fail a test? Because I didn't study. In 11th grade, I believe it was 11th grade, not many of you guys know this. If you went to high school with me, you probably do. I was probably one of the best swimmers in the state, probably top 10. Probably MVP of the team at that point. And was probably going to swim in several different things in states. So I used to be a really good swimmer. And I just didn't give any crap about school. I was like, whatever, I'm gonna do whatever. I'm 16 years old. I don't care. Well, I did so bad, I failed basically and wasn't able to swim and didn't get kicked off the swim team, but was academically ineligible. So I looked back, and that really freaking hurt. I was the best, and I wasn't going to be able to be where the best perform. I was embarrassed. I was in a situation where I just been a freaking moron, right? So I learned what happened. I addressed it. So I believe the class was chemistry. And I went and talked with my teacher, who I got an F from. And I said, I need to get better at this because I want to make the team again. And so the biggest events, like the Super Bowl of swimming, would be all states. And here I am with a really good chance of placing. And because I was a jackass, I got kicked off the team because I was academically ineligible. And that really, really hurts. So the next year, and I don't remember how I remember this, but I guess really painful things you remember. The next semester I go through, and I talked with my teacher, and I'm like, I want to do better in this. I have to do better in this. And I really don't, I have to improve this enough so that I don't have to take this class again next year. Because chemistry, God, why would anyone want to know that? Chemistry, what a terrible thing. It is chemistry. It's terrible. So I learned that I just need to study more. I need to not just, be in class like I was, but I needed to study more. I got a 96 to finish the year. I mean, think about that. And then I didn't have to go. But if I didn't go through that bad experience, I probably would not have improved. I probably would not have figured that type of stuff out. I just wouldn't have. And so by failing, by being embarrassed, by being in a scenario that really hurts, you know what happens? You learn from it, and you improve upon it, and you make sure it doesn't happen again. And that damn well never happened again. The next year I went on to States. Left the school with 4 records. I don't know if they still exist. They probably don't. And then I went on. But when you go through bad times, good times, reflect and learn why. Appreciate y'all being here today. Susie Harris, Kelly Doyle, Stanley Sparrow. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. Joel, what are some things that you do? Christy, too. What are some things that you do to reflect, to look back and make sure that you are improving, that you are making sure that you can be the best that you can be? To me, it's always just about, reflection, looking back. And I think that word's important. I think that word is not used enough, and people don't live by it. And, looking back and really understanding and dissecting can be powerful, right? Why did I do well on a test? Why did I get a sale? Why did I get engagement? Why did this thing happen, right? Joel says, wow, great question. Let me type out a few here. Give me a second. If you guys also wanted to, over at the 1004 YouTube channel, which I probably should just post here, I then add all these videos back up so that you guys can watch. Let me find that channel. I think this is it. I will post that in the notes. Right there. Subscribe on YouTube. That way you guys can watch all the 1004 shows. You can also do it here on Facebook. What's cool about Facebook, I believe, somewhere, they have something that says, get notified when Zack Miller goes live. You guys can absolutely do that. Talking about dream job and how it never happened, but how it made me better for who I am today. It's crazy. I mean, I actually never thought about that and how important that was for me to go through. Because if I didn't go through trying out for this show, I probably never would have been a sports anchor. Probably never would have gotten comfortable in front of the camera. Probably would have gone through engineering, built a roller coaster, killed some people on roller coasters because I wasn't smart enough to design the right roller coasters. So as many of you guys know, on my bucket list, the biggest thing, and I don't really talk about personal things on my bucket list because I think my personal life should be between my family and I. So you're not going to hear me say a lot of personal things from that perspective. And so my ultimate goal, my ultimate bucket list item is to be the majority owner of an amusement park. And that's important to me because I wasn't smart enough to do it, to build them from an engineering standpoint. So I want to do it from the business side. Joel says, looking at my past, I see what works and what didn't. I focus on what is working and is producing the best results to maximize my time. I also make sure I don't burn any bridges. So important with anyone. I may not be able to help someone at that moment, but I could end up meeting someone who could help that person down the road or vice versa. The burning of the bridge one is tough. I think oftentimes in the moment you really kind of want to. Not necessarily burn a bridge, but just be mean. Zenobia, thanks for subscribing. When you're in that moment, it's hard not to want to burn that bridge and be mean to those people. But as long as you don't, you never know where that person can help you down the road. John Fuller just joined. What's up, buddy? Hope you're doing well. If you guys are listening to this later, definitely recommend you guys starting from the beginning and learning the whole story about how on September 30th, 2003, I tried out for my dream job at ESPN. And I'm not working there now, so you probably have an idea of how that went. I'm thinking about trying out to be a comedian. Do you guys think I would be okay? My wife says I have zero chance. I'm like Michael Scott, dry humor, kind of funny, I think. So I don't know. Joel, I love what you said though, right? Like seeing what works and what doesn't, you know, seeing what did work and what doesn't. If you don't understand what's working, like why analyzing stuff is important, right? And that's ultimately what we're talking about. So look, guys, I appreciate your time. I'm going to get off. I'm going to go and edit a million videos and figure out what the big secret is on February 21st, the morning. Because I don't know what it is yet, and I have to figure that out. But I hope that you guys go and watch the big reveal February 21st at 9, I think 23. Joel says, oh, listen to your wife. They have great insights. Of course, that's why I married her. Joel also says, for present, I look at my calendar where my time being devoted, where to identify my time is being wasted. So smart. Are people taking up too much of my time? How can I improve in this area? What can I learn from others and how I'm really able to help others balance my work life with my personal life, etc. Couldn't have said it better myself. Appreciate all y'all's time. Until next time, this is your dream job loser, Zack Miller, signing out. Yahtzee!